You want to make your fantasy sports league more than a fantasy? Then you need Trophy Smack. It's the #1 store for fantasy and tournament trophies, belts, draft boards, loser awards, and other ridiculous products. Trophy Smack is more than just a trophy company with outstanding customer service and products. It's the very essence and heart of every fantasy league. And if you click now, TrophySmack.com gives you free shipping, a free loser poster, and can have the hardware to you in a few days. Bragging rights included. Go to TrophySmack.com right now and take your fantasy league to the next level.
Welcome to the Red Shirts Dynasty podcast, a Ball Blast football production. Here are your hosts, Matthew Betz, Matt Okada, and John Helmkamp.
Welcome back into the Red Shirts Dynasty podcast. Of course, this is part of a Ball Blast football production. John, do you want to take this or should I?
Oh, yeah, I got this.
We are very disappointed in Mr. Okada.
We are. My blood pressure is high. My stress levels are increased. One Mr. Matthew Okada at 6:00 p.m. Pacific time decided to take a little napsy poo before we were supposed to record. We're starting 45 minutes late. Betz and I have been calling him, texting him, messaged your sister to make sure that you're okay.
We're worried. Sick.
I would like to state
from Vermont to California.
I would like to state for the record that I started the nap at 5 Pacific time, not 6 Pacific time. Don't know if that makes it better or worse, but
hey, just shut up and drink your coffee and get a pillow, okay? Let's get started.
Yes, welcome in, listeners. As you can see, John and I are a little upset, disappointed might be a good word to use.
Discombobulated.
Here in the Okada situation, but welcome back. We haven't been back on the mic for like a week, so it feels like it's been forever. But we're super excited to get into our final division preview, the NFC South. If you missed any of our division previews, they're available in your podcast app. Go check them out. We recorded all of those episodes here in August, so check that out. But first, before we get into that, guys, don't forget, TrophySmack.com is the place to get your trophies, rings, belts, draft boards, loser trophies. I mean, anything that you need for your fantasy football league, they have, and it's a fantastic deal. Right now, if you go to the website, you buy a trophy ring or a trophy or belt, buy a ring as well. Add the code REDSHIRTS at checkout. You're going to get that ring for free, which is a great deal, especially this time of year. So check that out for sure. And final reminder, this is the last time we're going to announce this, okay? Final reminder. Get your submissions in for the Listener League by the end of this week. We need to have a date for the draft. So the end of the week is the deadline. Don't forget. I'm sorry. You have to go on YouTube. Okada's face. Okada's face. He was definitely just asleep with his eyes open. At least.
Bro, you good?
You good? 30 seconds. Oh my God. And I looked at him in eye contact at the worst time. Oh. I'm so sorry.
I was contemplating deep things.
If you want to play the Listener League, yes. With these three idiots and Kate and Michelle, go to your podcast app, leave a rating and review, tag us on Twitter at RedshirtsFFPod, and tag at BallBlastFB. You have to do it for both shows to be entered. Get in there. All right, boys, let's get into the division. Before we do, let's talk a little bit of news and injury updates here. There's a lot of them going on here with training camp.
I got great news, guys. Oh, got news? Hey, got news. Yes. News.
All right, boys, let's start with Mike Williams of the Chargers. Has been diagnosed with a sprain in his shoulder, and I'll break it down in more detail. Basically, the report came out. They were concerned initially about a fractured collarbone, which is typically something you'll see for an AC or an SC joint injury. Fortunately, it was not broken, so we're dealing with likely an AC joint sprain. Depending on the severity, guys, there's a chance he's not out there week one. It can affect his availability to improve his catch radius, go up overhead. I suspect he'll probably limit it at least the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. Are you adjusting Mike Williams in your rankings? And what are your thoughts here on the Chargers as a whole? Is this a bump up for Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Austin Eckler? Talk to me about the situation.
Oh my gosh! Listen.
Hey, no. You don't get to go.
Shut up, John.
No, you shut up.
As a free reign to talk for a second about Keenan Allen, because I don't know what is going on with the fantasy community. His ADP is possibly the foolishly lowest ADP of anybody in fantasy right now. He is a. I mean, listen, I believe that. I believe that's true, but the problem is McLaurin has never actually shown it. Keenan Allen has been a fringe wide receiver 1 for years. He's going to do it again, and this is just another reason to have him higher. So get him out of the late wide receiver 20s, people. What are you doing?
Is that where he's going? Hold on, let me check.
Yes!
He's going according to Fantasy Pros, he's going at 19, which is still too low.
Lies. That's lies.
I have him as a wide receiver 1. I think that he's right at that like 12 numbers. So yeah, it doesn't make any sense. The disrespect is dumb. You think that he's going to do worse? He's a route runner, savant, slot guy. You think he's going to do worse going from Phillip Rivers to someone else? He doesn't depend on the deep ball contested catches. That's not Keenan Allen's game. So give me the guy that's going to be the friendly target and get peppered early and often in the season. But for Mike Williams, I'm not really adjusting his rank very much, even if it takes him a few weeks to get going, because to me, Mike Williams is really tied to whenever Justin Herbert takes over at quarterback. And I think that that's going to be like week 6 on, as Okada and I talked about when we did the AFC West division. Week 6 is against the Jets. Juicy matchup. Might be a really good time to get your rookie acclimated to the NFL, put him in there at that point. So if it's going to affect him for the first couple weeks, I'm not really all that concerned. He's someone that I still want, especially in Dynasty. For redraft purposes, you might be looking at some down weeks to start the year. But he's still going so late, and someone that you can get as your wide receiver like 3 or maybe even 4. I'm completely fine with that value on Mike Williams.
Yeah, and real quick, just to speak to like the injury again, it's not necessarily that I'm saying he's going to definitely be limited. I'm saying if it's more of the severe grade 3 type injury where there's a true ligament tear, long term, there's zero concerns about them. So if there's anyone that's like worried in Dynasty, yes, scoop him up. I've been buying him everywhere this season. I will never quit Mike Williams, even when he's out of the league. All right, on to the next piece of news here. Injury update. Kenyon Drake was seen in a walking boot, and this sent fantasy Twitter ablaze today. Everyone's freaking out. Oh my gosh, what do we do? I wish I could tell you, because the NFL is so interesting how they use boots to kind of protect people's feet and ankle sprains. You'll see this all the time in season. Sunday night injury, morning, and they wake up on Monday, they're in a boot, even if it's a super mild injury. So the reports right now are that it's not a big deal. Kenyon Drake took to Twitter and said, I'm fine. Who knows what that means? At this point, because the NFL has adapted how they report injuries, they're able to call things like a lower body injury, or he's week to week, or he's day to day, which is more of like a hockey term. You don't really see that in football.
Right.
So it's tough to really read into the specifics here. I'm going to say we're not worried until we see more details, because you can't really speak to it at this point. And just a friendly reminder, he was in a walking boot last year, right around the exact same time, for a very mild like bruise in his foot. So right now, no real concerns, but we got to monitor it. One I am really worried about, though, is Tyrell Williams. Torn labrum in his shoulder. He's reportedly going to try to rehab that and then try to play through it this year. He's not on my draft board. He's off, and he never really was to begin with, but this alone pushes him way down. The re-injury rate for players with a labral tear with instability in the shoulder is like 50%. Like it's super, super high. The rate of redislocation, especially in football with a contact sport, is extremely high. So for me, no thank you on Tyrell Williams. But guys, talk to me about Bryan Edwards and maybe a little Hunter Renfrow in your life.
Yeah. Listen, I already had Tyrell Williams 5th on the team in targets, so it doesn't really do too much for me necessarily. And Bryan Edwards was one of the guys ahead of him, and I haven't given a full reshuffle to Edwards in my projections, at least since sort of this buzz started to come out for him. Well, I think he's true. I think he's going to be good. I don't think he's going to be an AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin type of guy like people seem to think that he probably can be in year one. Maybe he will be down the line a little bit. I don't think he's going to have that crazy first season breakout like we saw from those guys, especially mid to late last year. I still like him, and I still think he's probably one of the few rookie receivers that I might draft late, but it's like a end of the draft dart throw kind of pick.
Yeah, Brian Edwards, if this is something that is going to hamper Tyrell Williams at a risk of missing time or his ability for contested catches or anything like that, to me, it's wheels up on Brian Edwards. Like, I'm a little bit more bullish on him than I think Okada is. I think that 800 yards and 6 touchdowns could happen in his rookie season, especially if Tyrell Williams is not in the mix, because now he is unquestionably the only big target in that offense outside of tight end. He's the only like true X jump ball wide receiver on that team at 6'4". And this was what he made his calling card in college, was the contested catch, lining up out wide, playing the sideline. So I'm kind of bullish on him. I think that he might have a AJ Brown-esque, not quite to that extent because he cracked 1,000 yards. But if you give me 805 to 6 touchdowns in his rookie season, I think that's absolutely within the realm of possibility.
Intriguing. I mean, the only reason I'm saying I don't know that I see it is because Darren Waller was so good last year, but he didn't score touchdowns, and I think he's going to dominate in the red zone this year or close to the goal line. I mean, the guy only had 3, and he was just a massive volume guy. So even if his volume comes down, Waller's touchdowns should come up, and that might limit Brian Edwards' 6 touchdown ceiling, but he's a monster. He's great. I think he's going to be fantastic in this league. But we also have to remind ourselves as we get very excited, there is still Henry Ruggs there. There is still Derek Carr throwing the football. So
true. And we gotta talk about Ruggs also in terms of what his role in that offense is going to be. And that's just a massive question mark, because he could be, they scheme things up to get him the ball in space, or he could just be a deep threat, kind of a decoy, spread the defense, things like that. So we'll kind of figure that out early in the season in terms of how the Raiders are deploying him and what that's going to look like. And that will really change the tone quite a bit in terms of what we're looking at with this passing game in the Raiders.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like, even if he does have a McLaurin-esque season or a Metcalf-esque season where he's in the 907 range, which both those guys were, they were wide receivers 27 and 32 last year.
Yeah.
And I think it's most likely that he's in the Deontay Johnson range, which is 680 and 5, and that was wide receiver 43. Sure. So he's going to be, I think he's going to be good for a rookie-ish, like Deontay Johnson led all rookies in receptions last year. I think he'll be good. But how often it will matter for fantasy, maybe keep things.
And that's kind of what we're talking about. For redraft purposes, I'm not really interested. He's not going to benefit your team for redraft purposes. For Dynasty, though, this opens up the door for him even further to potentially solidify that role as the outside threat on this offense. Wide receivers are generally looking 2 to 3 years down the road. So I'm very intrigued in Brian Edwards in Dynasty.
Yep, with you on that. Speaking of Deontay Johnson, he's currently battling a calf injury, and it has sidelined him for about a week. So, and I want to also put this out there too. All this report right now is speculative that it is a calf injury. There's been reports saying that they've seen a sleeve on his lower leg and that they've kind of heard rumblings, but the team has not officially announced it. So we're gonna treat it as such until we hear otherwise. But if that is the case, I mean, calf injuries are notoriously really tricky for wide receivers, for running backs specifically when we're talking fantasy. So to me, the fact that he's missed 5 days does kind of have a little pause in kind of looking at his early season projection. The biggest risk is going to be next week when he comes back onto the field. And if he makes it through the week, all right, maybe we're all right. But we know how difficult those soft tissue injuries could be. Fellas, if Deontay Johnson was going to miss any time at the start of the season, is it James Washington, Chase Claypool, Eric Ebron? Who do you guys think steps up here in the passing game?
None of the above, and a slight bump to Juju, and that's it.
So no one's catching the football.
Yeah, I'll lean James Washington way because he was all the talk last offseason coming in for the Steelers, that everyone was hyping him up and his he and Ben Roethlisberger seem to be getting on a good page and everything is going well. Then Big Ben got hurt, and then Deontay comes onto the scene. So I'm kind of hesitant a little bit in terms of Deontay Johnson getting on the same page with Big Ben as it is, because they didn't see the field together last year. He was getting work in with their scrub quarterbacks. So if James Washington already has a little bit more of a rapport with Big Ben, that's something to kind of watch a little bit there in terms of the Deontay Johnson ridiculous hype train. And especially now with him having some calf issues, I think that James Washington might be a little bit of a beneficiary. But I agree with what Okada said. If anyone in this offense misses times, the biggest beneficiary is going to be Juju in that passing game. So
yes, please.
It's Juju systems up all the way across the board. Look for a rebound to potentially wide receiver 1 status this season.
Let's go.
That's how I'm looking at it.
Yes.
Got it. We've done it. We have
I know.
Convinced John.
I know.
You go back to May episodes, maybe even April's episodes. Is he really a wide receiver 1? I don't know. I don't think he has it in him. Yeah, I don't know. Does. Let's go.
What I said back in May is that I'm interested to see him prove it when he doesn't have Antonio Brown on the other side. And he might. And I think that he will. And that's what I've come around to, is that we just haven't seen it. And there's a lot of question marks in that offense with Ben being gone for a year and no AB now and stuff like that. It's going to be an entirely new look this season. So I am rising on him. And I think that he's an incredibly talented kid and he's still crazy young. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here, where I think as the focal point in that offense, volume is going to be king and he should benefit from that and get back closer to what we were seeing from him 2 years ago.
And as a note, I would rather Deontay be on the field. I would rather James Conner be healthy for Juju than for them to be missing time and him to be getting an obscenely 180 target Julio Jones type season. Because I think he's going to get the targets with those guys there anyways, but the offense will be much more well balanced and he can thrive from an efficiency standpoint much better.
Efficiency, more scoring opportunity, all the above. Yep.
True that. All right, boys, last 2 things here real quick. Tyreek Hill has been missing some time with a hamstring injury. He is back doing individual drills as of Monday. We'll see how he does throughout the week. Darrell Henderson also has a mild hamstring injury. Something to monitor there if you are a Cam Akers owner or if you are out drafting Cam Akers in your redraft league. So watch out for those 2.
I'm doing that.
I'm gonna add something in there really quick that's just kind of interesting. I really, really liked Cam Akers, the prospect. We know this. I've been high on him. We all have. We like him. It is very interesting to me, though, that we're not hearing a drumbeat for Cam Akers even when Darrell Henderson isn't on the field. I'm hearing it about Swift.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or beat reporters or anything like that. I'm hearing it for Swift up in Detroit. I'm hearing it obviously for CEH and Jonathan Taylor in Kansas City and Indy. Even Zach Moss is getting some drumbeat going up in Buffalo. I'm not really hearing Cam Akers shining or showing well with the opportunity of not having Darrell Henderson. So that's just interesting. It's just something to watch. I'm curious why I'm not hearing more about Cam Akers out of that camp without Darrell Henderson on the field. They're talking about bringing in Malcolm Brown and stuff like that.
The beat reporters are too busy talking about the beautiful stadium. That's the problem.
Partially, and it is beautiful.
That's all the stories I've seen out of Rams camp. Look, I was going to say,
outside of watching Hard Knocks, which honestly hasn't been anything football related, it's all
COVID.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I really haven't seen a ton on him. I saw a little, blurb here or there, but everything that you see, or that at least that I've seen, is we've got 3 good backs here that we really want to use. We've got Malcolm does a great job. We have Cam, who's exciting. We have Darrell Henderson, who's shown a lot in camp. So I'm with you, man. It might be a slower start than what we're hoping for, but I think come season's end, I firmly believe Cam Akers is going to have that backfield. So
I agree.
How it progresses.
But in terms of your expectations for 2020 production,
yeah,
maybe kind of temper those down a little bit. Dynasty, absolutely. I still like him to take that job, but I don't think that he's lining up to tote the rock a ton early in the season.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, boys, let's move on from the injury updates. We had a great review come in on Apple Podcasts, and every now and then it's fun to share these with you guys, let you kind of know like the feedback that we're getting, and we truly take it in and appreciate it and use it in what we're doing. So we have the lovely sounds of Okada's sleepy voice, who will read this Apple Podcast review that just came in the other day.
Man, it has probably been a year since we've done this. I feel like it's been so long.
Like
No, we've read
maybe once in the last year. Then
maybe
okay,
twice?
maybe.
Anyways, this comes in from Runner Lewis.
Ooh.
Fast and speedy, or maybe he's a long distance runner. I really don't know. But he says, recently stumbled onto this podcast when I dipped my toes in Dynasty for the first time. They provide great advice and really know their stuff. What's best, of course, is the Dynasty angle. You don't have to wait and hope the hosts mention Dynasty. It's all Dynasty, and if it's not, they'll let you know. You don't really need to go anywhere else for Dynasty info and advice.
Yes.
Was perfect. Thank you so much for that review.
Go, Lewis.
Am I the only one? Am I the one that felt like Okada just read that as like the host of like an old school dating show with like the 3 doors? And behind
door number 2
is the Red Shirts Dynasty Podcast. They bring an interesting Dynasty angle to everything that they talk about.
What John is saying is that we are a catch, and you should all subscribe and propose marriage.
Door number 2.
Do that.
Red
We're here
Shirts
for
Dynasty
life.
Podcast.
Lewis, the only issue with this review is that you haven't tagged us on social media. If you would like to be in the listener league, please do that. Otherwise, thank you, sir. We really do appreciate it. All right, on to the divisional preview here. NFC South, boys. Let's start with Tampa. What a year that was for fantasy. You had Jameis Winston 30 for 30. In his words, shout out to Jameis, told reporters at the end of the year he was, quote, balling out despite throwing 30 interceptions and single-handedly losing the season. Regardless.
His first pass and his last pass of the season were both interceptions.
I mean, you can't write that. You can't. That up.
It's phenomenal.
You know the story, though. With Jameis,
you know who else's last pass of the season was an interception? Is the new quarterback of the Buccaneers.
Tom Brady. Yes.
It was. How ironic. But with Jameis, man, it was perfect for fantasy. You wanted to own him because of the fact that he was just putting up massive performances. Interceptions don't really matter for fantasy. And when you talk about the game script, it matters a ton for how his receivers did. And we saw that last year. Chris Godwin, huge breakout. Mike Evans, another absolute locked and loaded stud season, over 1,000 yards. Yet again, that's all he does. Boys, Chris Godwin, where does he fall in your dynasty rankings? Let's put the number at like wide receiver 5.5. Would you put him below that mark as like 5 or better, or above that at 6 or worse?
I'll give me the under, please. Lord.
Where do you know where you have him?
I believe 4. I will double check. Dun, 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 dun.
Where's it at?
4.
All right, there it is. John, what about you?
Yes, I think I've got him at 4 as well. He's an absolute stud. I love it.
Yeah, I've got him at 5, so I'm right there with you guys. I think what we saw last year is the normal with him operating out of the slot. Do you guys have any concerns with Tom Brady now in town
No.
as far as his long-term outlook?
The only concern I have as far as long-term outlook is we don't know who the quarterback will be in 3 years. Because I'm guessing it won't be Brady, even if he keeps playing after, what would that be, 45, which is kind of what he always said he wanted to get to, I think. I imagine he might go somewhere else and try to take another team to the Super Bowl. I don't know, but
I don't know that he will. I think that this is the last go round for Brady. I think it's Tampa. I think it's Tampa for 2 years. Maybe they pick up a third, and then it's off into the sunset with Giselle, who wants him home. I think that's kind of what it's going to look like at this point.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one for sure. Let's talk about Mike Evans. He's been kind of a guy I've stayed away from in redraft leagues. I'm not at his last time that I looked, the ADP was wide receiver 8. You have to take him as a wide receiver 1 in redraft leagues. Now in Dynasty, I still like Mike Evans. I'm just not sure that I'm willing to kind of go in at the cost that it takes to get him, because I personally feel we're going to see a little step back in production because of not having the Jameis Winston deep ball, not having this like massive volume. So I still like the player. He's a stud. He puts up 1,000 yards literally every year. But I think this year we could see a little bit of a step back, and redraft. I'm complete fade on Mike Evans. Are you guys with me on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overstate it because Evans has been 1,006-ish guy. Well, more than 1,000, but at least 1,006-ish guy for every year of his career. It's been insane. But I don't think that he has that top 6 dynasty wide receiver caliber anymore that he certainly had even as early as last year when it was still Winston slinging the rock. Now with Brady, I think that, and we've talked about this briefly before, I think that having Brady really hurts Evans more than anybody else on that team because he won so much on the Winston not giving a crap, throwing it up, and Evans dominating and catching those balls because that's what he does. Brady likes to get a guy who's open. Brady likes to get a guy underneath. Brady likes to get a guy who knows going to get yak and can separate. Evans a little bit less of all of that, certainly than Godwin, and even than maybe the average guy, because he wins so much more with his size and strength and contested catchability. So, yeah, I mean, you guys tell me if this is insane, but in a dynasty league, to give the listeners some context, in a win now league where I kind of needed some running back depth, I traded Evans for James White and Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I like
I
it.
would do that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
I think this time next year,
about that.
there's a realm of possibility where Calvin Ridley is valued higher than Mike Evans. Yes. I'm not saying that's what I'm projecting. It could happen. I mean, the little bit of an age difference. Ridley, obviously, I feel like ascending, and people in Dynasty just get like so. I'm not saying that's what the difference is. I'm just saying people in Dynasty like get so tired of the old, and they're like, oh yeah, he's been around and he's put up 1,000 yards for 8 years in a row, but whatever. Like
Keenan Allen,
he could be the next thing, you know. And so I think their value might change, but totally, I could see that being a possibility. At tight end, guys.
I'm there. And speaking of tight end, what I wanted to say to that is that Brady likes the tight end. If he's going to look for a big body that wins on strength and contested catches in the red zone, it's probably not going to be a wide receiver. It's going to be the tight end.
He doesn't know what that looks like at wide receiver, so...
No, he's not used to it. So listen, I've said it before, and I'm still standing my ground on this. I think this is the first year that Mike Evans misses 1,000 yards in his career. I don't think that he gets it. I think it's going to be Chris Godwin, and I think that Mike Evans falls short of that number for the first time in his career and is lower on the touchdown total. Like, you know, I'd feel more comfortable putting him at 4 to 6 than I would be putting him at 6 to 8 in the touchdown category this year with that offense. So,
all right. It's been a while.
That's what I'm putting on.
975 and a half. Betz.
Over.
I set the line at 975 and a half. I'll give you 980.
Quite a bit over this year.
That's close. Like, I don't think he's going to miss it by much. He's not going to be at like 850, but...
All right. 980?
980, 981, 981. Gotta get 92, 92, 984.
3.
All right, yeah. Right, give me the under on 980 for Mike Evans.
All right, let's go. I'm on the over. Okada, you're over as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. On to the tight ends. If you're a win now team, are you going out and trading for Rob Gronkowski, knowing the chemistry, knowing the years that they played in New England? I don't know if I can do it. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Can
I just interject here? We love us some Cynthia Freeland. Absolutely love Cynthia Freeland.
Oh my God, love her.
Don't know
she's fantastic.
Definitely true.
She's absolutely amazing. We love Cynthia. We've had the pleasure of talking to her before. She is a gem and a delight and a savant when it comes to statistics, and I absolutely love her for everything that she puts out there. She has Gronk at over 900 yards this season.
I saw that. Yeah.
What?
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's a hot take.
Do you know how many touchdowns
that is hot.
He has him for?
8. You talk and I'll look. I think it might be 8. Let me check.
Okay, because the simple fact is I can see him having a large amount of touchdowns, enough to make him fantasy relevant. 8 would probably be the max I would get to, but I think he could easily get 6 or 7. But I do not see him getting the yards, man. I don't think he has the juice anymore to put up 800 yards, to even put up 700 yards. I have him in the 500s or 600s. And if he can score 7 touchdowns, that's enough to easily make him a tight end 1. And I think he probably can, but I'm not necessarily betting on that either. He's a very, very back-end tight end 1 for me for this year. And Betz, to your original question, if you're going out and trading for a veteran to try to win now, to win a championship now, and it's a guy who you're going to have for 1 or 2 years, and then that's it, you're going all in, I don't think I'm doing it on a guy who's a fringe tight end 1. I think I could probably get the same stats out of it. Yes, easily Jack Doyle. If I went out and got Jonnu and Ian Smith, one of those is probably going to put up similar numbers.
Jared Cook or Rob Gronkowski for 2020 only.
Ooh, that's a really good one. I'm going to check my actual ranking so I don't say something silly.
Jared Cook for
Jared Cook. Yeah, same.
But I think that's probably right in the range that he belongs. I think that back end tight end 1, maybe a tight end 2.
Yep.
I don't know. I can't do it. I won't give up pieces to go get him because he's not going to put you over the edge, in my opinion. If you're looking for a guy that's going to put you over the edge and win a championship, to me, it's not Gronk. I would much rather have a Jack Doyle, which sounds gross to say based off their 2 names, future Hall of Famer and Jack Doyle. But in this season, that's what I want. Let's move on to OJ Howard, guys. Dynasty buy low, yes or no?
No.
Okada?
How low can I buy him? Are we talking a 4th round pick at this point?
How low can you go? That's the question. If you're not watching on YouTube, John just danced and it was very nice.
Wonderful.
I would say like a late second, early third seems like about right for a guy like that. John says no. I would buy him for a 3rd.
That's tough. I might buy him for early 3rd, but probably not. I think it has to be a late 3rd, early 4th at the least.
I'm not buying a descending asset with a 3rd round pick. Sorry, I'm not. I'd rather get someone with upside that I think is still, on the upswing instead of. I don't even what is he? I don't know. They brought in Gronk. They still have Cameron Brate. I don't know what OJ Howard's role is going to be in this offense. It doesn't look good. This might be his last year in Tampa. I don't know. I'm not giving up a rookie pick for someone that I don't have any confidence in what his role is going to be on the field or where he's going to be after this year. No thanks. I'd rather take a shot on a rookie. There's rookies every year that go in the rookie 3rd and 4th that end up showing some value and kind of busting onto the scene. Now, it's not often, but it's a dart throw, and it does happen, and I'd rather take that dart throw.
I'm buying him for a 3rd. Here's my rationale. Like,
okay,
it takes players so long at tight end to be fantasy relevant, right? So, like, you're telling me I could have OJ Howard for a 3rd this year. Great. If it doesn't work out, no sweat. I know for a fact whatever tight end goes in the 3rd next year or the year after will still be able to be a trade candidate early in his career because you can just cycle through these guys over and over and over again because their value doesn't increase unless you're like a freak athlete like Evan Ingram or someone like that where he came out and smashed his rookie year. It doesn't really happen. So I'm willing to see if I can get him for a late 3rd or like a 4th. Like at that point, you're literally just like, it's free money. You might as well see what happens. But that's me. Apparently, I'm a sicko, and I'm willing to take a risk on OJ Howard. Who, by the way, quick stat, and this is not a good stat for this man. He finished 64th among 71 tight ends in pass blocking and 70th out of 71 in run blocking. I'm saying,
how is he getting on the field?
It is.
How is he getting?
I want that tight end in fantasy. I want the that is smart enough to say, "Oh, he is so bad at blocking. Put that man in the slot and let's see what happens." I'm just saying.
But they've got Slotty. They got Slotty Miller to work the slot. It's not going to be Gronk.
He's more of a trade target for his 2nd team that he signs with for super cheap, and they maybe bring him up something. That's what I'm saying. That's
no. I will quickly throw this out there. It's something that I think about a lot when we're talking about. Like, who would we trade for that? Or what would we trade for that? What's the pick value? And all the time we say, oh, I'll throw a 3rd for that guy. Oh, I'd definitely give a 2nd for that guy. We don't have an endless number of 2nds and 3rds to throw at these players. We have one unless we traded something else for someone. So while I don't think that OJ Howard for a late 3rd or even a mid 3rd is terrible value, if I have a 3rd and I'm trading it for someone, I'm probably trying to get someone a little better than OJ Howard.
Speaking of, in the past, we have talked about Paris Campbell when we did our AFC South last week. Yep. I sent a 2nd for Paris Campbell, and it got turned down.
Oh, wow.
Hype. It's real.
Must be listening to the show. All right.
Hype is on.
Moving on to the running back position, boys. Ronald Jones is making buzz in training camp despite missing a wide-open pass from Tom Brady on Twitter, which I saw, and I was laughing.
I hate to see it. Classic Ronnie.
That's so Rojo, man. Classic. No, but in all seriousness, he's a value in redraft leagues. You're telling me you get a starting running back in like the late 6th, 7th round. At that point, I think he is a value. In Dynasty, I want nothing to do with him. I'll be very clear. I'm not sure what to make of this backfield. Keyshawn Vaughn is still a guy that we liked pre-training camp, but man, you talked about in LA, nothing positive. There has been nothing positive.
No, there's actually been
Keyshawn
negative.
Vaughn. Yes,
There's not
Quite
been anything positive. There's been negative about Keyshawn Vaughn.
I assume you guys are in the same boat as me. Even if you're on a win now team, are you trading for Ronald Jones?
No.
Dynasty. John?
No, I'm not looking to acquire him. Listen, he had the starting, air quotes, had the starting gig last year, end air quote, in Tampa Bay. He still had like 820 rushing yards on the season. Like, he doesn't do, like, just because someone is going to win the starting gig, quote unquote, in their team doesn't make them a good asset for you. He's going to be a starting running back. Is he going to catch any passes? Probably not. It's probably going to be Dyer that catches any passes in that offense.
Ogunbowale.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Indeed.
I'll let
Yes.
Ogunbowale.
Ogunbowale.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I struggle with that one. Him and Albert O, I mix up their last names, and there's just one giant
Okuebuna.
string. It's just strings of vowels. That's all it is.
It's a lot of
But-
vowels.
It's a lot of vowels. But I think that Dyer is going to be the pass catching back. I think that Rojo is going to get the early down work, but he's proven not to be great at it. He's not very efficient. The offensive line didn't really increase in any special capacity. If anything, last year defenses should have been keying in on the pass much more because of Jameis Winston slinging it all over the field. You have to think that they're going to be looking at this offense a little bit more conservatively this year compared to how they did last. So I don't know that Ronald Jones is even a value in any format. I just don't want anything of this backfield. Keyshawn Vaughn, maybe I took him in a few rookie drafts because I liked the prospect and I liked the landing spot, and it's been a really rough training camp. He was out on the COVID list. So I'm still holding him and thinking that he's going to get a crack at it at some point. But Ronald Jones, I don't know. I don't want any of this backfield for 2020. I think it might be Keyshawn Vaughn in 21. That's basically how I'm looking at it right now.
May I share a statistic?
Please.
Sure.
Pass blocking grade for running backs in 2019. There were
Don't do it,
122 running backs.
Don't
Ronald
do it,
Jones was 98th with a 38.4 PFF grade.
Oh no.
Now
Just
Keyshawn
the
Vaughn.
100th worst running back in pass blocking. And in case anyone was not aware, Tom Brady is the quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If Ronald Jones misses one block and Tom Brady gets blindsided,
And
he
Bruce
is
has already
done.
said this. Bruce Arians has already said this. He said it this last week that pass blocking is going to be critical for the running back position in Tampa Bay. So Keyshawn Vaughn might get on the field, even though he's had a bad training camp. That dude might get on the field in like week 4. If Rojo misses a blitz pickup, misses an assignment, and the golden boy, the GOAT, gets buried by a pass rusher by Cam Jordan from New Orleans. If that happens, they might just throw Keyshawn Vaughn out there for a series and be like, let's see what you can do. It's very possible that happens.
Could definitely see it. Speaking of the Saints, let's talk about the Saints.
Shall
Earl
we?
Thomas, very good at fantasy. Please draft him. Moving on. Fellas, any interest in Emmanuel Sanders as a a win for a buy now team here in 2020?
Yes. I think if you have, which a lot of dynasty leagues do, three wide receiver spots and 2 or 3 flex spots, Emmanuel Sanders can be a weekly starter in that kind of league. I think he's going to be a good wide receiver 2 for this team. And while that doesn't mean he's going to be a wide receiver 2 for fantasy, it means he can be a somewhat consistent wide receiver 3/4. I think he's going to be good enough to make your starting lineup if you have that kind of depth in the starting lineup year round. So if you need a guy to shore up, or even as a depth piece for a team that's trying to make a championship run, because holy mackerel, the depth is so important this year of all years. If you're going to make a championship run, you need to have depth. Sanders can be that kind of guy.
Okay, so to play the other side of that, Alvin Kamara is going to have exactly or more 81 receptions this year.
Exactly.
Yes, he is. That's pretty
I
usual.
have him
more,
projected for exactly 81 receptions.
I know
Why
you
would
do,
you-
but he did.
Why would you
but he
project
did
anything
miss-
else?
You'd have to be a
Because he
fool.
Because he missed 2 games last year and still had 81 receptions.
But they didn't have Emmanuel Sanders.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. So you're going to have 81 receptions going to him. Michael Thomas is Michael Thomas. He's the number 1 wide receiver off the board, broke the record for receptions last season. Where is Emmanuel Sanders getting this volume that you're projecting him to get it from?
From Michael Thomas not setting the record 2 years in a row. And that's
Okay,
pretty much it.
so he has 30 less receptions,
Yes.
which I think is a reasonable downtick for Michael Thomas this year.
Agreed.
30 less receptions on the season. Suddenly, Emmanuel Sanders is a valuable flex play. Like,
Yes.
where's the volume? I don't see enough volume there. For what's he going to have?
Yes.
45 catches on the year? It's like 2.5.
63.
Okay, in 16 games.
Yes. 63 catches.
John just keeps
Three-
asking questions. Okada just says,
John is
No,
looking
no.
at me like the dust storm from last week right now.
It doesn't make any
What
sense.
is this?
It
I
doesn't.
forgot about the dust storm.
The dust storm was gorgeous. We need clips of that. Please go in and find some
Oh
clips
my
for everyone. But here's the thing.
Consider it done.
Okay, do that. Put it on social. So what? He's gonna have like 3.75 catches per game. What just happened to my camera? I have no idea. Fixing that,
Gone.
but I'll keep talking. He's gonna have what, like 3.5, 4 catches per game for like 32 yards. I don't understand where you're thinking that he's gonna be a valuable fantasy asset. I'm gonna let you finish this while I back out and fix my camera.
Well, part of it, a little bit of it, comes from the fact that the Saints and Drew Brees did not throw the ball a lot last year. And what the amount that they did throw, literally half of it went to Michael Thomas. And that's barely even an exaggeration. So, hello? We lost John.
He's coming back.
He's coming back. Yes, it's going to happen. Someone has to catch passes on this team besides Michael Thomas, unless he's going to do it again. Another 140-plus reception season, another record set. I think someone else is going to catch balls. I think Jared Cook is going to take another slight step down because he's 38 and a half years old. Not really, but he's very old. He might be one of the oldest actually viable tight ends in the league, reaching
Probably.
Tony Gonzalez levels here. So 63 catches is not that much.
No,
It's all right. But it's enough.
I'll look at someone else.
Agree with each other, and then at the same time, we're like, I just told him.
Right. But what's so funny about that is that you're saying
Right.
the exact same
Yeah.
that I am in terms of the
Agreed.
volume that you're getting, and you're saying that you want it, and I'm saying that I don't. Like,
I want
give me
63
someone
catches,
with
the wide
upside.
receiver 3 or 4, yes.
Give me more upside. Give me someone that has a
Oh, he
potential
has
role where he
upside.
can see 80.
I do not disagree.
I
that
will
he
take
has no
I will
upside.
take Paris Campbell over Emmanuel Sanders 10 times out of 10.
Oh, in Dynasty, I'm with you. But I mean, we're talking
That's
about
true.
a specific win now team. The only reason I have a little bit of interest in Emmanuel Sanders, and I mean a little bit, like I can get him for like a late third, maybe like the tiniest little bit of interest, is just because Jared Cook caught a touchdown on 21% of his catches last year. That's not
That's a lot.
happening this year.
That's
And
1 in
so,
5.
yeah, more than 1 in 5. And if
True.
Thank you for the math, Okada.
Hashtag
That was
math.
wonderful. This is
If
a
that
researcher
doesn't
for
happen-
the NFL Network, ladies and gentlemen.
You're
if that
welcome.
doesn't happen, we could see more out of Emmanuel Sanders than I think people are expecting. So I think Okada's saying he's a depth piece on your roster, which I buy into. If you're counting on him as a wide receiver too, no way. No.
No.
Definitely don't do that.
New.
So that's
Don't
kind
do
of my wrap up on the conversation there. Fellas, same
Brilliant.
question. Jared Cook, where are you at with him this year?
Back end tight end 1 to mid-range tight end 2, and for Dynasty, less than that. So I try to get out from under him now if I can.
Yep.
Co-signed.
I'm with you on that. Boys, last question here. Let's just talk a little bit about Mr. Alvin Kamara. Entering a contract year, I feel like people are not down on him, but I feel like people don't value him the same way they do Zeke, Barkley, CMC, which is probably warranted. But I think
No,
Kamara is
it's-
up in the
it's
conversation of top 3.
It's not
Top three.
warranted because Alvin Kamara I have above Ezekiel Elliott in my rankings.
Oh, let's
Doo-doo.
go.
Straight
That's
wild.
No, it's not. Give me the guy that's going to catch 80 plus receptions every year. That's going to see a regression to his statistical norm of 10 plus touchdowns.
True.
Give me that in a PPR format every single year and still have over 200 carries. I want him over Zeke 10 times out of 10.
Yes.
I love Zeke. Zeke is very, very good. He's fantastic. But give me that reception upside in a PPR format every single time. He's my 3. Zeke is a very close 4. They're both in that elite tier. To me, it's that top, like Christian McCaffrey and Saquon are in their own tier. And then it's Alvin Kamara and, well, I know how you feel about Saquon. Shut up. It's Alvin Kamara and Ezekiel Elliott.
For the people not watching on YouTube.
Yes, it's Alvin Kamara and Zeke after that. And then we start getting into some more conversations after that point. But Alvin Kamara is an elite dynasty fantasy asset, especially for that reception upside that he's going to bring to the table. The touchdowns are coming back this year. Get ready. It's going to be
ready.
It's going to be a hell of an outpouring. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, Betz brought up the fact that the people seem to be a bit down on Kamara, and that is literally 190% of why. If this guy had had his normal touchdown total last year instead of only scoring 6, he would 100% be in the conversation with Zeke and Saquon, and
absolutely
probably not CMC.
No,
but in that range for sure. And most people seem to think he's a little less than that. Now, fortunately for our listeners, none of us do. We all do see him in that tier. And while I was shaking my head at John for a lot of his Kamara diatribe there, because I think Zeke is more reliable with just as much upside, they're pretty much in the same tier for me, and you could flip a coin, honestly. Like these guys, and Saquon's in that tier for me as well. I know most people have him a tier above, but that to me, that's a compliment to Kamara. I think he is in a similar range as those two guys. If whoever owns him in your league doesn't think he's a super elite guy, go get him right now.
Or if they're concerned because they think this is Breeze's last go-round and they're willing to get out from under it because of that.
I am a little concerned about that, whereas I'm not with Zeke, so there is that.
That to me is true. The tiebreaker in Dynasty. In Redraft, I do have I have Kamara in PPR formats above Zeke. But in Dynasty, I will take Zeke because he's locked in. Dak is going to get paid.
Sure.
They've got 3 stud wide receivers. Yes. They'll figure it out, dude.
He gonna get done.
Scary.
He gonna get it done.
They're getting it done.
I don't know, man.
You really don't think they're gonna pay Dak?
I thought they've been paying him for the last 16 months, and it hasn't happened yet. So when is it going to happen?
But
Pat Mahomes just literally took a sledgehammer to the piggy bank, and now Dak's going, look over there.
But he is going look over there, but he's not doing it by holding out. And I think that's the point. Jerry knows who Dak is. He knows he's a guy who didn't have Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson level draft capital, and therefore is not as entitled as those guys might be. He is a guy who is saying, listen, I was a low draft pick, but I've played well. I'm going to get my contract. I trust Jerry, but I just don't get to demand it necessarily like everyone else does. And by the way, for the record, he hasn't won anything yet besides a lot of regular season games. Patrick Mahomes just won the Super Bowl.
Here's the thing. He's going the Kirk Cousins route. It's going to be exactly the same scenario where he's going to have his line.
That team that no longer has a name is the worst run organization in football, and the Cowboys are one of the best. Jerry's a little bit crazy on his drafting by himself.
Is really? You're going to tell me that they're one of the best for just paying up Amari Cooper out the nose when they had Michael Gallup and then they just got CeeDee Lamb after that?
We're talking,
pay your freaking quarterback. Pay your quarterback.
About what Amari brings to that team from a real life perspective with Dak was warranted. I mean, the win. Yeah, the wins, like the production from Dak.
Except for the fact that he wasn't even on the field against the Eagles in the drive that mattered, the play that the entire season hinged on.
That's because they had one of the worst coaches in football who is now gone, a.k.a. Idiota.
I agree, but here's what I'm saying is like, where's this magic money going to come from where they're going to be able to pay him $37 million a year, which is basically what it's looking like at this point. Like, you had your chance. Your chance to pay him was in the last 16 months. It's gone. you're
It's
going
not gone.
up. No, but
they're gonna pay him.
I don't know.
I'm not talking about
That's
that.
that Texas oil money, John. They got
Yeah, they're gonna
it.
pay him. They always do. They figure it out.
I hope they do.
Look at the
I
Rams.
want them to. It's good for that organization. If Dak Prescott is there, it's good for fantasy. I want it to get done, but I'm really concerned this is going back-to-back franchise tag years, and then he's out the door.
Can we take a long-term bets on this, Betz?
Sure, put it on the list.
Dak Prescott signed by week 1, 2021.
Yes.
22. Oh, jeez. Okay, well, yeah.
You're saying not at all.
How about June 1st, 2021?
Sure.
John doesn't even know what to do.
Sure. What? Sure. It should have been done already. This is dumb. This is stupid.
All right, moving on. The Carolina Panthers. Boys, there's some interesting pieces here. And I want to talk about Christian McCaffrey, who I'm going to put this out there is a top one running back this year.
Hot takes.
It's just me. I'm the only one. So when you hear it out there with other people saying it, they copy me first. Anyway, DJ Moore. Boys, I'm excited. I'm very excited about DJ Moore. He is inside my top 10 Dynasty wide receivers. What say you?
Well, Betz, unfortunately, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one because he's my wide receiver 11. So I can't get on board with inside the 10.
Hater.
No. DJ Moore is going to be great. I mean, anybody who remembers back to his rookie profiling and especially Dynasty Twitter and Dynasty analysts when DJ Moore was coming out, all the analytics guys absolutely loved him. Now he has a quarterback who is competent, which is all you need with DJ Moore because of the kind of receiver that he is. He is going to be excellent. I think he's a guy who can be a fringe wide receiver 1. I think he can be a Keenan Allen type guy or maybe even a little better for the next 5-6 years, where in PPR, you always know he's going to be a top 15 guy. And every once in a while, he'll be a top 10 guy.
Love it.
That's interesting.
John is stroking his beard somewhat maniacally.
I am. I think he's got a higher ceiling than you're giving him credit for.
How high?
I think this is a potential top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. I really think that's the case. There are some people that I trust and love and know personally that have him ranked ahead of Tyreek Hill in Dynasty. I'm not going that high.
News action right there.
I'm not going that high, but there are people out there. I think that he's inside my top 10. I want to put him at probably about 8 in Dynasty right now. And I think this is an ascending talent that has top 5 overall wide receiver potential in this league.
Keenan Allen was the wide receiver 3 in 2017, his best year.
Yes, he was.
So I think he could do that once.
Yep. I think he can do it more than once.
You're telling me that this receiver who put up a 65% catch reception with Kyle freaking Allen and 1,200 yards doesn't have top 5 upside? You out your mind, Okada.
Wow.
To me, he does.
Hey, Keenan Allen did it once.
Let's talk about DeAndre Hopkins and Matt Schaub, shall we? Let's just throw it way back to there. These top tier guys sometimes get crap at quarterback. All it takes is a change in the guard, and all of a sudden they're elevated to a top tier talent. I think that's going to happen. I think that Teddy B is going to sustain him in a top tier for the next couple years. And by the time that he's entering his prime years to 27, 28 years old at the wide receiver position, all it's going to take is a quarterback change to if they go through a rebuild and they can bring in whatever that next top tier quarterback is going to be. If that happens for DJ Moore, you're looking at someone that's going to potentially be in the upper echelon of wide receivers.
They already have a quarterback in place who fits what he needs perfectly.
Absolutely.
They have an accurate quarterback who can deliver the ball in the short to intermediate passing game. I'm not saying Teddy Bridgewater is a top 15 NFL quarterback, but I'm saying he's better than Kyle Allen. And what DJ Moore did last year with Kyle Allen tells you the ceiling is massive. So, let's talk about Teddy Bridgewater real quick. I like him as a quarterback too. In Dynasty and in redraft leagues, I've been scooping him up everywhere in best ball. He is literally the last pick of every draft. I know if I want to get a Carolina Panthers stack, I can get it with Teddy because he's always there. I don't know why people don't like this guy. The scheme is awesome. It's going to be up-tempo. The defense is going to be horrific. Great pass catchers. I'll take the guy checking off to Christian
CMC,
McCaffrey.
yeah.
Yeah. and DJ Moore. Sign me up. Are you guys with me, or is the thinking by the general consensus correct about fading Teddy Bridgewater?
No, the consensus thinking is definitely not correct because people don't even think he can do anything. I think you might be a little bit high. I have him kind of in that like 15 to 18 tier with the likes of Derek Carr, maybe Kirk Cousins if he doesn't quite step up to the level he can, maybe Jimmy G, considering the lack of receivers there right now, at least. Where if you want to punt on your QB2 in a super flex league, Teddy Bridgewater is beyond the ideal pick there. But if you expect him to be a top 12 quarterback, I don't think I'm going to quite get on board with that. I think he can get close, but I probably see him more in the mid QB2 range, which is still fine, and happy to own him as my QB2.
I'm kind of in the middle. You've got him 15 to 18. I think that he's more in that fringe 15 to 12 range because of what these playmakers can do when they get the ball into their hands. I think that they're going to support him. Like I've said it a few times, it's going to be between he and Jimmy Garoppolo who lead the league in yards after the catch from their talent around them.
Very similar quarterbacks for fantasy and even in real life.
Very similar, but I'll take like Jimmy G literally has George Kittle, and that's it right now. All their wide receivers are hurt. Even our beloved Brandon Ayuk that we're hoping he comes back quickly.
Oh,
I know. The hammy, it hurts. It really hurts. But
get those synthetic hammies going, Betz. Gosh darn it.
Seriously, you would so fast. And then we all live happily ever after. You invested in this company.
True.
You give me Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, even Robbie Anderson, and Ian Thomas at tight end. It's stacked and loaded for him to be successful. I think 15's his floor. I don't see him getting any lower than that.
I love it. I think I have him at like 16 or 17, so I could definitely see him inside that come season's end. And I'm talking redraft rankings. But yeah, in Dynasty, super, super late QB2. Your roster is going to look awesome. If you were going win now in the first year of a startup, and you want to go like a stud quarterback and then just wait for like 12 rounds or like 8 rounds or whatever it is to get Teddy.
Kyler Murray and Teddy B.
Yeah.
As your combo.
Love it.
Would be
and then you can
delicious.
just hammer
beautiful
running back and wide receiver and then throw a tight end in there. Yeah.
Such completion percentage.
So much.
Yes.
Teddy B and Scott Fishbowl, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes.
I love it. Last player I want to talk about, Curtis Samuel, entering his contract year after being the talk of the entire offseason last year. Thank you so much, Matt Harmon, for doing that for all of us with crushing reception perception. And spoiler alert, listeners,
can we talk
on
to
the
him?
next episode, we have Mr. Harmon coming on the show to talk about breakout wide receivers for 2020. Last year, this guy was on the list.
We're talking about Curtis Samuel.
We probably will because he blew up reception perception, Matt Harmon's metric, which we'll talk about 2 years ago. And entering kind of this last season, he was like, man, I'm in on this guy. The metrics show it. And I think the hype got out of control. Then we had Kyle Allen, and then people were like, oh, maybe Curtis Samuel isn't that good. I'm buying back in. 9th in air yards in the entire NFL, comes out 52nd in receiving yards. That tells me the quarterback play was not good, as Mr. Okada likes to say. You can get him so cheap right now, and I'm taking him in startups like crazy everywhere I am.
Yeah, the price is great. What do you see as the upside is my main question.
I think you can put up high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2 numbers.
Yep.
And for Dynasty, I'm in on that.
Okay. I can get on board with that.
Perfect. Same. Could be a potential week-to-week flex play depending on the matchup. That's kind of what I'm looking at with him this year. Yeah, I don't think that anyone – is there a wide receiver that's gone through a bigger arc over the last 12 months than Curtis Samuel? Like, from where people wanted him last year.
Juju.
Well,
for similar reasons.
Okay, yeah. I'll give you Juju on that. But I don't think Juju's coming to the floor of Curtis Samuel. That's the thing.
Well, he's not.
No.
Curtis Samuel's not as good as Juju. But to me, that's
exactly. He's not.
Curtis Samuel is basically a poor man's Juju in that regard. Like, he is a good, very good receiver who is being overlooked because he had a terrible quarterback play last year, and that's not really fair to him.
True.
So I like it.
True. All right, boys. Last team, the Atlanta Falcons. Julio Jones, we've talked about it a lot. We talked about our top Dynasty wide receivers, and we still had Julio inside the top 12 because, yes, he's 31, but he's Julio freaking Jones, and he's going to finish inside the top 5.
Yeah, we've got him in like the top 6 consensus between the three of us, I think.
I think the consensus ranking had him at 6 or 7 or something like that off the top of my head. So, yeah, I mean, hey, listen, if he stops producing this year, I'll be shocked. I'm still so in on Julio. I've debated moving him up to wide receiver 2 in my redraft rankings because I mean, look, if Todd Gurley doesn't work, Julio Jones is going to finish as floor wide receiver 3 with the way Matt Ryan throws the ball, their chemistry in a weird offseason with the volume that he's going to see. I mean, the targets just year to year is insane. So, yes, if you are a win now team, Julio Jones is the perfect wide receiver to put you over the edge. Even with all this Calvin Ridley hype, I'm still buying Julio Jones. What are you guys' thoughts there on Julio, even though he is age 31?
Yeah. It's forever Julio until he proves me that he's not. He's arguably the best wide receiver of this generation. You can put him up there with Calvin Johnson. You can put him up there with the longevity of Larry Fitzgerald. There's a few wide receivers in this last kind of decade that you can talk about there, but Julio Jones is a freak of nature at the wide receiver position. He is so insanely talented. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I tweeted it just a couple days ago. I was just sitting there thinking just randomly, and I was like, man, I just really hope that Julio Jones can get a Super Bowl ring. I want it for Larry Fitz also. Those two guys, I would love to see them get a ring before they go. Both those guys with the same team for their entire careers. You love it. He's just an absolute monster, and all he does is put up massive yardage totals every year. He's at a couple touchdown years, but that's been a few years since that's happened. He's been putting up better touchdown numbers lately than he was 3, 4, 5 years ago. So he's locked and loaded. He's a stud wide receiver 1, not a fringe, a stud wide receiver 1 until he proves to me that he's on the way out. And I will not be early on fading him. I will not do it. He is locked and loaded there until he falls off.
Yeah. Do not pull the Bill Belichick with Julio Jones where you try to get out from him a year early, because the year early will never be the right year. He's always going to go one more year. Listen, in that league I talked about where I'm trying to win now, and I traded for Ridley and James White. I also traded for Julio Jones a little while ago, so I actually have both guys.
Love it.
Hashtag I believe in Matt Ryan. The trade that I made basically amounted to Austin Eckler, AJ Brown, who I freaking love, as you guys know, and Preston Williams for Julio and Michael Gallup.
Ooh,
that's a lot to give up.
That's a lot.
I believe in it because
Julio
the man.
Say it again.
Austin Eckler, AJ Brown, and Preston Williams for Julio and Michael Gallup. There were picks involved as well, but those basically even out.
Dang.
Yeah.
I like it. I like what you got.
I mean, hey, if you're going for it now, you can't half-ass it. You got to go in and you got to win.
Hey, Betz, speaking of, if you're going for it now, you can't half-ass it. Take that trade I sent you 3 hours ago, would you?
Hey, we'll find out. I'm just gonna let you sweat it out. In my mind, I've already decided what I'm doing. I just can't tell you.
Yeah, you're taking it. I know you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
oh boy,
Calvin, and just for listeners, the trade was Joe Mixon,
yes,
and a third for my J.K. Dobbins, and a second. Worth noting, I probably have a top 3 roster in the league. I would say conservatively.
I'm not competing this year. I'm close.
Allen Robinson, it's got Tyler Lockett, it's got 2 stud quarterbacks. Austin Eckler. So, hey, maybe I just talked myself into it. We'll see. Listeners, find out on Twitter. All right, moving on. Calvin Ridley enters his 3rd NFL season. He is the talk of Dynasty. He is the absolute ultimate hype man of the offseason. Boys, are you in or are you out on the hype of Calvin Ridley?
Ooh, that's a tricky question because being in on the hype of Calvin Ridley means believing he's the next Julio Jones.
Chris Godwin.
You have to take him as a wide receiver 13 to 16 in ADP.
Yeah. No. I don't know if I'm quite in on the hype. maybe it's going to cool down a bit after the insanity that it was over the past few months. And the price I just got him for that I mentioned earlier is pretty doable. And I did trade for him. So apparently I am in. He has every possibility of being a wide receiver 2 for many years. However, I do not think he has the Chris Godwin ceiling that people are talking about, to John's point. I do not think he's going to be a top 5 guy for many years. So if I can get him for top 15 prices, which, Betz, you just mentioned the ADP, it's around there. If I can get him for, let's say 15, wide receiver 15 price, because top 15 is a lot of range. Wide receiver 15 price, I'm willing to do it. He has the quarterback. He has the offense. He has the system. He still has Julio Jones for another couple years. Maybe he can be, I don't think he's going to be Julio Jones, but Julio Jones became what he became when Roddy White was still what he was. So, and I think it could happen to a degree with Calvin Ridley. Like, Matt Ryan's not going anywhere. This team is going to throw the ball for a long time, and Calvin Ridley's going to be catching the ball for a long time.
I am not in on the hype. I like him. Fine. He's a good route runner. He's a good wide receiver. But Julio Jones is cream of the crop, elite of the elite. And he's under contract until Calvin Ridley's 29. 29! Wow. Julio Jones is going to be there. So you're waiting on the age 30 breakout season? Like, I don't see it. Like, he's going to be fine. He's going to be perfectly fine as a wide receiver 2 on your team. Okay.
That's red shirts. That's a classic red shirt saying.
Yes.
If you're new to the show.
But do not anoint him the next Chris Godwin when he's got Hall of Famer Julio Jones on the other side. No. His ceiling is going to be capped for quite a while. If you have him, sell him right now when this offseason is going nuts. I'm fine with the price that Okada paid for him. That's okay. But if you can find someone that's going to treat him as a dynasty wide receiver 1 and sell him at that price, do it. Get him off your roster. I'm fine with selling him.
Calvin Ridley or Courtland Sutton?
Courtland Sutton. Smash. That is easy for me. Courtland Sutton, I think, is going to put up 1,200 yards this year.
Hold on. Please hold.
It's pretty close for me. I think I probably take Ridley.
It's so close.
It's Sutton for me. No.
Calvin Ridley or DK Metcalf? Betz, you still have to answer the first one, but I'm throwing another one at John.
Shut up. DK Metcalf. Get out of here.
Betz, you take Ridley on both of those?
I have Calvin Ridley 1 spot ahead of Courtland Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
I have DK Metcalf ahead of Calvin Ridley.
Okay. All right.
But, I think he's going to be good. I'm just not sure that, there's, when you think about, sports gambling and, fantasy is a form of wagering in some aspect. You're kind of project what's going to happen, and you're going to put either a little bit of money on the line in a league, or you're paying a little bit of money in DFS, or a lot of money in those formats, or whatever it is. And in general, the concept is when every person is talking about that player, there's usually some holes to poke in the argument that no one is talking about. And it's commonly good practice to just be kind of on the little bit on the other side of the argument. So I like Calvin Ridley, but people are just going bananas for this guy. And I can take him as a wide receiver back end, a wide receiver 2. Sure. But if someone's coming up to get him at wide receiver 12, 13, 14,
exactly.
ADP, I'm not in on that. That's why.
You know who Calvin Ridley is? He's the new Stephon Diggs.
Where everyone just wants him to do something for so long.
Yes, he is. That is perfect.
And he kind of always is something, but never quite what everybody wants him to be, because there's always a guy ahead of him.
Yes.
He scores his good touchdowns. He's efficient. He's a great route runner. I think Calvin Ridley is 100% what Stephon Diggs has been for many years now.
I love that so much. And by the way, I put out a tweet a couple days ago because someone tagged me in a draft that they were doing, and they got Joe Mixon at a screaming value. I think it was in the late 3rd or something like that. And I was like, this is a perfect example. I'm down on Joe Mixon this year, but every player becomes a value at some point, except Marlon Mack.
oh man.
Sorry, Marlon. Oh, God. Oh my god.
Oh,
We're done.
boy.
All right, last
Can we just
couple
pause
players.
for a second to reflect on the fact that if Jonathan Taylor is a bust, we may lose John from this podcast.
Oh, someone's going to do a wellness check on John.
Listen, it's
frequently.
not.
Oh man.
It's not happening. There's a 0% chance that he's busting. I'm sorry.
I mean,
It's
I love
not
JT, but part of me hopes that there's maybe a little bit of a bust in
Yes!
this because I want to see what happens to John.
You are maniacal. That is evil. Don't put that juju on my man. Stop
Hey,
it.
literally
Oh,
all of
man.
your teams will be screwed. You own him
True.
in every single league.
Not all
16
of
of
them.
20.
Only 80%. Yeah,
Yeah.
only 80% of my
16 of 20 of John's Dynasty leagues. We discussed it this
16 of
past
20.
week. He calculated it.
This
Oh
is
my
true.
gosh.
This is accurate information.
Hashtag brand. All right, boys. Last question of the
Um,
night. Are you getting Todd Gurley on a roster that is a win now team for a 1 or 2 year rental? We know the concerns. We know the history of the ACL. We know the history of the arthritis. We know he's on a 1 year deal just for $5 million, but he's in a good offense that's probably going to throw the ball to him a bunch. There's a lot of research by my good friend Kyle Borgononi of the Fantasy Footballers looking at when players leave, there's vacated targets. It goes to the running back. The Falcons have the most vacated targets in the entire NFL. Am I
That
selling
is
anyone?
shocking.
Am I selling
Like,
anyone on Todd Gurley?
You're not selling me on Todd Gurley because I was already sold on Todd Gurley, so I don't have any money left with which to purchase Todd Gurley from you.
Fair
Same.
enough.
Same.
Absolutely, I'm in on Todd Gurley. I don't care if he's got 75% of both knees. This offense is going to chug. 75% of Todd Gurley knees are still great knees because he's a guy who can be the RB1 with 100% knees. And all he needs to do is be the running back 12, and he gives you great value on what his price is right now. He is going to score double-digit touchdowns. There is no doubt in my mind.
Yep. I'm
All right.
I'm with you. This offense is going to be one of those offenses that they have to outscore their opponents to win. That is going to be the
Yes.
only hope that they have. They're going to be slinging it all over the field. We know that Todd Gurley is a great receiving back. He's an exceptional receiving back in the red zone. We know that Atlanta likes to utilize their running backs in the receiving game. Devontae Freeman posted fantastic numbers, and Devontae Freeman was way more shot last year than Gurley is now. If Todd Gurley can hold up for the entire season, and there might be a little bit of, like, to bring in a basketball term, load management on Todd Gurley throughout the course of the year, there will be for sure. If that's going to be happening, but even then, if they can make him last for, even if it's 14 of 16 games, if he misses 2 throughout the course of the season, I still don't see a way where he's not a top 12 running back. The volume he's going to get, the touchdown opportunities that he's going to have, his ability in the receiving game, like Ito Smith, Brian Hill, they're not toting the rock. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. This isn't like Denver that has Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. There is no Phillip Lindsay to Melvin Gordon in Atlanta. It's not the case. It's going to be Todd Gurley with over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns easily.
I remember earlier this offseason, you were all in on Melvin Gordon and a lot out on Todd Gurley, or at least I think a little out on Todd Gurley in your rankings. Are they still in that order?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit lower than you guys on Gurley, and it's mostly because, like, he's such an enigma because we've seen it, and you know how good he can be. But at the same time, we saw a lot of the advanced analytics last year and the efficiency just plummet. Yeah. Now, was that him, or was that just like Sean McVay was like, I think I want to limit his workload, but I'm not sure if I should. And then, like, now the line wasn't great. So, like, what do I do? And it was just a weird usage of Todd Gurley. Like, they didn't use him in the passing game, and that is his bread and butter. But Devonta freaking Freeman, who was absolutely washed last year. I'm sorry. He was amazing for fantasy, but he was done last year. He finishes the RB20. So if you're telling me I can get Todd Gurley as like my RB3 on a win now team, smack.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm in. Because I don't think he's finishing outside the top 24. But if you're telling me that you're trying to get him as like a top 10 guy, I have concerns about that.
Well, yeah, you don't have to take him at that. That's right, the benefit. You don't have to take him for that value. That's the beauty of the
price. So yeah, I think at his price, I think we're all probably in on Gurley. Fellas, what a show. It was fun to get back on the mic with you guys. Okada barely woke up. I think he's finally awake right now.
Go back to bed there, bud. Just go back to sleep. We're done.
Yep.
That closes out the divisional previews here, closing it out with the NFC South. We're back with another fantastic show later this week with Matt Harmon of Yahoo Fantasy talking wide receiver breakouts for 2020. Super excited about that show. Make sure if you're new, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, leave that rating and review, tag us on Twitter to get in the Listener League. Don't forget about patreon.com/ballblast and the website, ballblastfootball.com, is overflowing with content. John and Kate have been crushing behind the scenes, looking at the in-season content schedule.
It's going to be great.
We're going to have articles every single day.
So good.
Podcasts. You name it, we've got it, and we got you covered here. So, fellas, we are back later this week. Follow Okada at Matt Okada. John is at Dynasty Beard. I am at the Fantasy PT. Until next time, we're the Red Shirts.